Hey, what's up everyone? In today's video, I want to go over a build that I like to call the Shockbear. It's a druid build that uses its summons to kill while you stun enemies with Shockwave while in Werebear form, and also uses Maul as a main attack. There's several different options you can do with this build, but the one I'm going over I personally enjoy testing out. If you have any comments, gear recommendations, questions, or any other build variants, please comment below. I'll be going over the stats, skills, gear, and mercenary setup that I use, and as always, I'll have the character files available for download in the description to where you can test this build out for yourself on single player on PC. Before we begin, if you could please like this video and subscribe to help me grow, I would greatly appreciate it. So the Shockbear, it's a pretty tanky build. The summons do fairly decent damage. You can have it more life based or defensive based depending where you put your extra skill points. You could solo the game with this build as it doesn't require any insane type of gear. However, what I am covering here is more of an endgame type build with my current setup. This is not an insanely fast killer like a sorceress or Zon, but if you want to enjoy the game while still killing and not relying on others, then this is a build for you to try out. So for stats, for strength, you want enough strength to wear your gear. Phoenix Monarch is going to be your biggest strength requirement at 156, so you want a minimum of 156 strength. Here I got 85 base points into it, gives me 160, that's plenty, so that's all you'll need for strength. For dexterity, I'm usually one for max blocking, but here you're going to be stunning enemies with shockwave. So dexterity, I have enough points in it just to wear my items. So my base dex is 100, and you need a minimum of 136 overall for Grief Phase Blade. So this is all you're going to need for dexterity. And all the points that you have left, put right into Vitality to try and get as much life as you possibly can. For the skills, for the elemental tree, if you wanted a little bit of absorb, you could always put 1 point into cyclone armor, and then it'll be 1 point to arctic blast for a prerequisite. But other than that, you will not be using this tree at all. For your summon skills, you'll be maxing out Grizzly, you'll max out Dire Wolves, and you'll max out Spirit Wolves. You're going to be summoning these all at the same time, and they're all synergies for each other. They're your main killers. I also put 1 point into Raven for a prerequisite. For your spirits, it depends on if you want more life or damage. I tested out more damage for this build, and it turned out really well for me, so I maxed out Heart of Wolverine. However, if you max out Oak Sage for life, that is not a bad option at all. It just comes down to what you prefer. If you're playing in a group, they would love for you to max out Oak Sage. So again, it just depends on what you prefer, if you want more life or more damage. For the shape-shifting skills, you'll put 1 point into Shockwave. You'll be using this to stun the enemies, and you'll put 1 point into Maul. This will be on your left click for your attack. And also, you'll put 1 point into Werewolf, which is a prerequisite for Lycanthropy. You'll want at least 1 point into Lycanthropy and 1 point into Werebear as well. Now, if you want more life, you can put your remaining points into Lycanthropy. It also increases the duration of Were form. Or if you want more damage and defense, you can put your remaining points in the Werebear. I ended up splitting them to balance it out a little bit. It just depends on what you prefer. For my items, for my weapon and shield, I went with the Grief Phase Blade and the Phoenix Monarch combo. I just love this combo for PVM. It hits really hard, does good damage. The Redemption Aura heals you. It's just my personal favorite to use. For armor, I chose to go with Chains of Honor. I love Fortitude for my melee characters, but I wanted the extra skills for my summons as well as a little bit more resistance. I don't use Enigma since you can't teleport in Were form, or else I'd Telestomp with my summons and Shockwave while wearing Heart of the Oak, since Shockwave goes off of faster cast rate instead of increased attack speed. So since you can't teleport, I chose to go with Chains of Honor. For my amulet and rings, I went with Mara's, try to get the extra skill points and a little more resistances. And the rings, I went with 2 Bull Kathos rings for the plus to skills and a little bit more life. For my helmet, I use Cerebus Bite with the Cham rune. I'm using it to give the plus skills to my shapeshifting as well as for the open wounds and attack rating bonus. Also, since I'm not wearing a Raven Frost, I put the Cham rune in it for the Cannot Be Frozen, which will come in handy. If you would rather have the +2 to all skills and then 2 to shapeshifting and are lacking in resistances, you can always substitute this with Jalal's Mane. For my boots, I'm using Gore Riders. They give you faster run walk, they give you the crushing blow, deadly strike, and open wounds. Just a great melee boot. For my gloves, I'm wearing Drax. You don't really need the life tap since you have Redemption Aura. When you kill, it heals you, and then you also have Life Leech from your Bull Kathos ring. So I'm really just using this for the open wounds, and it gives a little bit of strength as well. For my belt, I like going with Vertigos. It gives you life, it gives you damage reduction, and a little faster hit recovery. If you want a plus skills, you can always go with Arachnids. And on the Switch, I have Calling to Arms for the battle orders and a Spirit Shield for the pre-buff as well. For your charms, you'd want to get Druid Summon Grand Charms with as much life as you can, or you could switch it up and alternate between shape-shifting. It just depends on what you want. I wanted my summons buff pretty good since they're going to be my main killers really. Then you want to get a Druid Torch as high as you can, and then an Annie as high as you can. If you're lacking in resistances for small charms, you could try to get, depending on what your resistances are, all resistant small charms, or like a plus 10 or 11 to lightning, plus 10, 11 to fire resistant small charm, or you could try to find these 20 life, 5 all resistant small charms. And if you want a little bit more damage in life and attack rating, you can go with 3 max damage, 20 attack rating, 20 life small charms. I know these charms are very expensive, but I just wanted to show what you could possibly get with this. So for my mercenary, I would usually go with an Act 1 mercenary with a Faith for extra damage and attack speed, but I wanted to do something a little different, so I went with an Act 3 Fire one to enchant my summons. Since the skill items increase the mercenary skills, I gave him a Flickering Flame. It gives +3 to fire skills, which will boost his up. It's just a nice helmet to have. It also gives the Fire Aura, so if you're lacking in fire resistances, it'll help you out there. I gave him a Chains of Honor. It gives him some resistances. As you can see, he has max resistances now, and it gives +2 to skills, which will boost his fire skills as well. I gave him a Eth Spirit Monarch. It lowers the strength requirement for it, as well as gives him the skills. And then I gave him a Spirit Crystal Sword. So overall, he has a level 42 Firebolt, a level 40 Fireball, and then his enchant is level 47. So this is the Shockbear build. It uses Maul and its summons to kill and Shockwave to stun the enemies. It's a pretty tanky build and able to solo the game and doesn't require insane gear to do so. It's not an insanely fast killer, but it does do the job and it is fun to play through with. If you want to test it out for yourself, the character files will be in the description below. Thanks again for checking out this build. If you could please like this video and subscribe to help me grow, I would greatly appreciate it. As always, I'm going to end this video with a little bit of gameplay.